My name is Rocket, and I'm a burlesque producer and performer and sometimes writer based in Portland, Oregon. I was 21 years old, and I moved to Portland from Michigan, from a really small town in Michigan where I lived as a teenager. And I came out here for a friend's wedding, and I stayed for about a week in the springtime, and then I got back on the Amtrak train and went back across the country and decided that I didn't want to live in Michigan anymore, so I was going to move to Portland. And I had lived here for, I guess, almost 2 years, and I had, collected cans to pay bills and worked in a bunch of pizza places and just did odd jobs that I didn't really like. And I went to PCC, I went to PSU, and was pursuing a degree. And I went to a gender studies class at PSU, and I had this really awesome professor. I only remember his first name was Jason. We had a show and tell day about everyone's jobs in the class, and I met this really amazing woman. She went by the name Tinkerbell and worked at Mary's Club in downtown Portland. And I just thought she was totally fascinating. She brought her lucite stripper heels to her show and tell, in class at PSU, and talked about doing dominatrix work on the side in addition to stripping. And she was just super funny. And the professor had arranged for people to go on a couple of field trips to different classmates' works. So as a class for PSU, we went to Mary's Club to watch our coworker, and she was awesome. I had never been in a strip club before in my life, but I thought it was really neat. And really it had this great seedy quality about it, and I felt a voyeur, and I decided that I wanted to kind of dip my toe, if you will, in stripping. So I started taking pole dancing classes at a pole dance studio that I don't think exists any longer. It was called Be Juicy Studios, and it was run by a woman named Isis in kind of almost to 82nd Avenue off of Halsey area. And I took pole dancing classes from her for a while, and then we had a recital. And the caveat about the recital was that it wasn't at the pole dance studio. It was arranged so that the whole class of pole dancers could strip in a real strip club if we wanted to. And it was at Devil's Point, which is in Southeast Portland. So I was like, yeah, I'll do the recital. And it was totally optional if you wanted to get naked. And I was like, yeah, I'll get naked. That sounds great, And I ended up loving it, and I thought it was super fun. And then right after I got off stage, this kind of he seemed I don't want to speak poorly of him, but he kind of seemed like this kind of skeezy guy came up to me, and he was wearing a trucker cap and cut off jeans and sleeveless t-shirt, and it was summertime, so he was kind of sweaty and he kind of smelled, and he was like, "You should work here." And I was like, "All right, buddy, fuck off, go away, you weird dude." And he's like, "No, I own this place." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I ended up working there, and I worked at Devil's Point for, I think, a little over 7 years. And then I worked sometimes at the same time, sometimes on a break from Devil's Point. I worked at Union Jack's, Sassy's, Lucky Devil Lounge, and then I also did Dante's Sinferno Cabaret, which I still do all this time later. Been doing that off and on for a decade. When I was dancing, starting from the very beginning, I've always been a writer. I have an English degree. I like writing. Starting from the beginning, I kind of felt for whatever reason, it was important to write down what happened to me. And then I've also, over the years, off and on, kept a journal just to work through my own thoughts. And I found that was really helpful when I worked in a strip club, because stripping is an extremely stressful job for most people that do it. So it was just a good way to get my thoughts out. And I would write things in various notebooks. I would, write things and store them in in my computer. And then I would also just like randomly write things down on like cocktail napkins and like pieces of paper and like whatever was laying around if I didn't have my notebook. And then I just kept all of those things like in a drawer in my bedroom, and the pile got bigger and bigger. And I decided that I should, probably put it into some kind of cohesive form. But the stories that are in the zine or series of zines that I plan to self-publish are all short stories, and they have to do with things that happened in the strip club with, the strip club owners, the strip club coworkers that I had. The customers are obviously the like most hilarious and fun and interesting stories, I think, for most people. And then like my relationship with myself and my relationship with my family, like during the time that I've stripped. And the stories are not just about strip club stripping, although that's the majority of what I've written so far. It's also about eventually quitting stripping and then moving into the world of burlesque, which is what I do now. So, I'll give you some little sneak peeks, right? Just weird stories about like, the customer that loves to get beat up, or like the customer that like to be like tied up, gagged, blindfolded, and left in VIP for 2 hours, and then you just walk back in and like smack them around for a while. Like just weird people like that are just super interesting. I wrote about a couple that I call my strip club grandparents, who are like this elderly couple that came in and saw me all the time. They'd come in like 3 times a week. They would bring me Christmas presents. They would send me cards for my birthday. Like just people that you like wouldn't really expect to be in a strip club. And then of course, all of the awesome stereotypical people that you would expect to be in the strip club, who are awful or weird or like have some bizarre kink. I wrote about all those people too. So I've had a couple stalkers, some of them not so serious, maybe just infatuated. One of them extremely serious that I had to seek help in keeping away from me. I've gotten letters from people who saw me at the strip club and then were convicted of a crime and sent to prison and decided to write me from prison. That's fucking weird. I don't know. All kinds of people in the world. And so many of them go to strip clubs. So and then I wrote about some stuff that's like super personal, like telling your family that you're a stripper, which is really awkward. Like bizarre, or maybe not so bizarre, maybe more common for women, like body issues that you get when you're stripping, or that I got when I was stripping. Mental health concerns about stripping, or just like funny shit that dancers do or say in the dressing room. Like there's all kinds of stories in there. So I was working and had been working in Union Jack's club, and I'd been stripping for quite a while, probably at least 4 or 5 years. And I was working at Union Jack's, and I worked on a night that I didn't normally work. And so there was a DJ that I had never met before working, and it was a lady DJ, which is not very common in strip clubs, or at least in strip clubs that I've been to. You don't usually see a woman, in the DJ booth. And she was fucking hilarious. Like she just had, normally you go to a strip club and you hear like the deep bellowing, like male voice. And he's like, next on stage, we have Cinnamon shaking it for you all night long. And it's like kind of boring usually. I mean, some of them are really entertaining, but it was really cool to hear this woman's voice. And she was like, next is Coco, and she likes kittens and long walks on the beach, and she drinks 2% milk, and like all this. She just like say this super random stuff about every dancer. And as a result, she had a lot of people that just loved her, and like all the dancers thought she was great. And her name was Krista, and she had kind of done a little burlesque stuff before, and we started talking about it, and we became friends at work. And she says to me one day, she's like, I notice you play a lot of metal and you dance to a lot of metal at the strip club. Like, would you be interested in putting together a metal show that's based around burlesque and pole dancing performances? And I was like, sure, that sounds super fun. Like, let's try it. So I believe it was 2010 or 2009, and we did the very first Sign of the Beast Burlesque, metal burlesque, which was totally Krista's idea. And she's known in the burlesque scene as Vera Mysteria. That is her stage name. And then before I knew it, she had other ideas. Like, she came up with the idea to do David Lynch burlesque. And so we started doing Black Lodge burlesque, and she plays the log lady. Essentially, I would say that every good idea that I've had the pleasure of helping produce in the burlesque scene in Portland is totally her idea. Like, she just comes up with the best things you could possibly do, the most creative, fun ideas. And then she goes, I don't have time, you do it. And so then I end up getting these great ideas and running with them, but she always comes up with them. So thank you, Krista. You're awesome. When I'm coming up with a burlesque routine, I would say my process is, it's usually hearing a song that I really like and thinking about how I can put together some kind of act based around the song. Or sometimes other producers will do like an open call for a show, and they say, the theme of the show is Star Wars, or the theme of the show is classic burlesque. And because you want to be in the show, you kind of just come up with an idea that's going to fit their show. But normally I hear music, and for whatever reason, the song just moves me, and an idea for a costume comes, or an idea for a character comes, and I just kind of run with it. Right now I'm working on revamping a set that's kind of like campy, kind of gory, like metal set that's based around Alice Cooper's Dead Babies. So I've been doing it off and on for a couple years, but maybe you don't do it for a while, and then you go, I really want to work on that costume and make it better. And you go back to the workshop and put it together and change it up and do something new. I've been fortunate because a lot of the characters that I portray in burlesque sets have just been handed to me. It's been like Vera Mysteria is like, well, why don't you be Audrey? Or why don't, from Twin Peaks, or why don't you be this character for Metalesque? And she just kind of gives me a really smart suggestion, and I run with it. So I make everything. So I am kind of a fabric hoarder. I'm that person that pulls over every single time I see a free box on the side of the road or a thrift store in a small town. I'm that person that goes to the naked lady clothing exchange and walks out with everything and then hoards it for years. So every time I have a costume idea, I'm like, oh, I have something for that. I don't hardly ever go to the fabric store or order things online because I already have it somewhere. And I love being super hands-on and digging through my piles of stuff. I'm kind of like the, what's that character from The Labyrinth? The lady with all the shit on her back where she's like, oh, I got a teddy bear. Let me find you a teddy bear. That's me, in the craft room. So I have a space that I have actually in my friend's basement, and she lives about 6 blocks away from me. And 3 or 4 times a week, I just go and I craft. This is kind of hurtful. I was kind of kicked out of my house with this crafting thing. I had a craft room in my house, and it was 10 feet by 10 feet. And slowly the room filled with crap. And suddenly there was glitter and feathers in the hallway. And then there was a glue gun on the kitchen table. And then there was my very, very angry husband who's super OCD. And he was like, you have to get this shit out of our house. And I was like, okay, yeah, totally, I'll do that. And then like 2 weeks later, he was like, I've spoken to our friend down the road. You're moving this shit to her house. Go. And he helped me move all of it. And we took it over there. And she loves it. Like I have a key to her house. I like go in her basement all the time. And, you know, half the time she doesn't even know I'm there until she hears like NPR and she's like, are you down there? You know, so we have a good time. Yeah. But I love making stuff. So I have everything down there. I have like every kind of glue imaginable. I have 2 sewing machines. I have a mannequin. I make all kinds of stuff. But yeah. And I also make stuff for other people. So I like help them make costume pieces. I make headdresses for people and I sell them. So yeah, can't get enough. Love glue. Technically, like my work studio is called the Dollhouse. So that's kind of an umbrella name for all the creative stuff that I do. So I make things for people on commission. I've sold some stuff on Etsy, and then I just started getting hired to do like, I've done like some music videos where I'm the costumer for them, or I make specific things that they need. So like I just got to do a local band's metal music video, which was really awesome. They wanted like pagan-y, like witchy Nordic forest stuff. So I made them all this stuff. And then I showed up on the set and they were like, hey, so our witch canceled. Will you be the witch? And I was like, sure. So that was really fun. Yeah. I'm very lucky. I get to do all kinds of fun stuff. So as a burlesque producer, when I first started, I really had no idea what I was doing. But I approached the owner of Star Theater and Dante's and a couple other venues in town just because he also owns a bunch of strip clubs and I had worked at all of them. So I knew the guy and I was like, hey, I want to do this now. Book it, okay? And thankfully he was like, sure, you seem like you could do that. Here you go. And he like gave me some dates. So, I started producing shows and I really had no idea what I was doing, but I had this great group of performance artist friends who were either strip club strippers or burlesque dancers or, you know, hula hoopers, singers, circus acts, contortionists. Like I knew all these people from kind of the creative scene in Portland, and I put them all together in shows. And as the years have gone by, I've really learned like how to organize myself and how to promote. That's been a really big deal. Like how to get sponsors and how to write a professional press release and how to inquire about booking a venue and what questions you should ask and like the art of negotiation, you know, all that stuff. How to manage the talent or herd cats, as I like to call it. All that stuff. You learn all that stuff. I'm just kidding. Actually, most of the performers I work with are super professional and like do a great job. But yeah, I've just kind of learned along the way, and then learning those skills has helped me like just in normal everyday life, because as a creative person, even though now I'm very organized, I feel like it's been a progression of being like, you know, when you have like a creative mind and like you're just constantly getting ideas and they just like filter into your brain and then they get crowded in there and you don't know what to do with all of them. Like I sometimes have so many ideas that I can't sleep, or sometimes I have so many ideas in my head that I forget to eat food all day. I don't recommend that. But I've really learned through production work how to organize my thoughts, how to organize my time, how to organize my resources, how to communicate what I want to other people, because you really do have to talk to a lot of people, and how to glue a shit ton of rhinestones on things. I mean, I've learned all of that stuff. And so it's been really instrumental to me as a person outside of that world as well. So yeah, I started out doing co-producing with Vera Mysteria, and I still do a lot of shows with her, but now she's taken on less of a production role to do other things in her life. So I started working with one of the women who's in Metalesque and Black Lodge Burlesque, and co-producing shows with her under the company name of Sign of the Beast Burlesque. And that is the lovely High Fleisch, who is extremely talented. She's a really great costumer. She's an amazing performer. And I would consider her a very good friend, who's just great to co-produce with. And we do the Black Lodge David Lynch Burlesque, and we do Sign of the Beast Metal Burlesque every year. And then we are organizing a couple of other things that we haven't really like announced yet, but we're kind of breaking out of burlesque a little bit and doing some other types of productions here in Portland and in Seattle. And we've been fortunate enough to help the cast of Black Lodge Burlesque in particular grow. And we're kind of organizing like a mini Pacific Northwest West Coast tour for this summer. So if you look at signofthebeastburlesque.com or blacklodgeburlesque.com, you can see like all the tour dates. We're just adding them as we go. And then I do production work just as myself, sometimes with a production partner as Go-Go Rocket Productions. So I do an annual show called the Cannabis Cabaret, which is a celebration of pot culture here in Portland on 420. We do it at Dante's. Fun fact, I'm allergic to weed. Why do I do a show about weed? I don't know. I just saw an opportunity and I went for it, and I probably should wear a gas mask for that show out of concern for my own health. I don't want to break out in hives. But it's super fun. And we have fire dancers and contortionists and aerialists and cabaret and singers. And it's super fun. I love that show. And then I co-produce a very successful show called Muppets Burlesque with Miss Baby Lestrange, who is a very well-known and awesome performer based here in Portland. It's sold out every time that we did it. We've had like a line down the block in Portland and a line down the block in Seattle, and we just booked another one for September at the Columbia City Theater in Seattle. And we're looking into like going some other places with that show too. And then what else do I do? Oh, I do John Waters Burlesque annually every year, which is super fun and disgusting. I love that show. It's just like really irreverent, like really filthy. Seriously, look for videos on YouTube. Like look on YouTube and put like John Waters Burlesque Vera Mysteria dog act. Like see what you get. Some good stuff. But I love that show too. Just booked that one. So that's happening in April. And then we're taking Sign of the Beast Burlesque to Crypticon, which is a horror festival that happens annually in Seattle. And we're performing there as well. So, it's just like grown exponentially since we started it. And like, it's really hard for me to look at what I do and think about like, wow, like 5 or 6 years ago, I was like stripping in a strip club and not very happy with my job at the time, because there's definitely a thing of stripping for way too long and hating it. And that's where I was. But I was like, kind of looking for something else to do and going like, what do I have experience doing? And then looking for something related to that. And it's taken off. It's been like crazy. I'm very lucky. I keep saying that. It's true though. Like it's kind of awesome. So I had all these notebooks that I had saved over the years, and I had like one initial reading of my work, and I was looking into like getting it published, and I wasn't successful in finding someone that, wanted to publish my book. So after, I think it's been 2 years since I did that. So I started thinking about, wow, now I have some time to work on this again, and I want to self-publish. And my friend Ken, who's a photographer and has taken many photos of me and at my shows over the years, he said, every time I would hang out with him, he's like, when are you going to publish your book? When are you going to publish your zine? When are you going to do it? You should do it. And I was like, okay, God. So he's been like really helpful. He's actually sent me some messages online regarding it too. So he's just like constantly reminding me that I should do this, and been really supportive, as have other friends. And then several months ago now, actually, something really lame happened that reminded me that I should get this zine done. And that is one of the women that I danced with for several years at Devil's Point passed away. And I don't think she was even 30 years old yet. And it was just really unexpected and really sad. And I had all these, memories of working with her kind of like flood back to me. And she was quite a character. She was like totally crazy, wild child, fun person, never boring, never a dull moment. And her name was Stormy. And I remember her reading some of my writing when we worked together. I would like let her read some of my journals and stuff. She was an avid reader. She was always reading a book in the dressing room. But she said to me so many times, she's like, "Oh, have you written any stuff about me?" She's like, Did you write anything about me? And I would say to her, I have, but like, I don't really know if I want to let you read it, because it's like, some of it's kind of like, doesn't portray you in the best light, because she was always getting in trouble and stuff. But she was so cool about it. She said to me, "I don't care what you write about me, whether it's good or bad. Just write it. Like, write it and let me read it. I'll love it. Like, say whatever you want. Like, you're a good writer. Just keep doing this." And when she passed away, I remembered her saying that, and it was like more of a push, for me to get it done. So